Nalin is here and Sushant Sarina here. I want to first bring them in, Brahma Chalani also. Let's just bring in the three experts, including, of course, Mr. Raja Gopalan. But I want to first begin with Sushant, just to get a sense really of the statements that Prime Minister has made on the military operations. Now, would you agree, Sushant, that Operation Sindoor has established a new normal? That it's not over, as the Prime Minister said. There is no peace agreement, for example. This is, in fact, a short leash. It's a declaration of deterrence and a promise that nuclear blackmail will not stand in between India and a punishing riposte. And if you do agree, then can we conclude that the Prime Minister has blown away doubts that India sued for peace? Because this is a primary charge against him.
The charge that India sued for peace is the most contemptible lie ever. Simple fact of the matter is, who picked up the phone to call whom? That should tell you everything. Okay, so this nonsense that it was India which picked up the phone to call up the Pakistanis. No way. We didn't call up J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was calling us up. J.D. Vance was calling up the Pakistanis. And when they were trying to talk to us, we said, if the Pakistanis want to talk, ask them to talk to us directly. We are not going to talk through you. We have not accepted any third-party mediation. Trump can say whatever the hell he wants to say. It has no meaning, nothing whatsoever. And if you don't trust what I'm saying, you will find out in the next coming days and weeks whether Trump or anybody else has any role to play. Secondly, I don't think you should play down the significance of the speech made today. It is very clearly the enunciation of India's new doctrine. And this doctrine, of course, applies substantially on Pakistan. But I can assure you that there are elements of this doctrine that also apply on that budding terrorist nation on our eastern border, which is Bangladesh, which has also been flirting with some of these terror groups. Some of those clowns out there, part of that clown in chief, Yunus, his advisors, who have been threatening that if India has a dust up with Pakistan, then they will tear apart India's northeast. Let them try. Let's see what these bloody Kanglustanis do. Okay, so I think that doctrine has been very firmly established. Number three, I think and this is my considered opinion. No government stays forever. Maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, a new government comes into office. I don't see how any government can walk back from the doctrine that has been enunciated today. I think this nation looks for a robust response to merciless acts of terrorism perpetrated by state actors. And please, I think we should give up this term non-state actors. There are no non-state actors when it comes to terrorism. Organizations like the Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen, these are all state organizations. These are all organizations that survive and thrive because of the patronage and the sponsorship of a state, and that state is Pakistan. The organizations in Bangladesh also survived because of the patronage of the state. The Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh was finished off when the state crushed it. Okay, otherwise it was business as usual for them. So it is very clear that there is no non-state actor, and I think the Prime Minister has very clearly enunciated that we are not going to make this distinction anymore between terrorists and the guys who sponsor them, the guys who encourage them, sustain them. We are going to put them all on the same pedestal and give them the same treatment. Okay, so I think this particular speech is quite path-breaking. Now, if you ask me personally, I would have been happier if the Prime Minister, although in his own way, he has sent out the signals to Trump and everybody else to get off, whatever they are saying, and stop spouting the lies which they are saying, that, they are the ones who tried to bring the two sides together and they are the ones who threatened. There was no threat. I can assure you from the highest quarters, there was no threat of any kind which was made to India. In fact, India had made the threat that anything that comes from Pakistan will be paid back with compound interest.
Yes.
They will be backing down from India. And if I can quote somebody who said, If they fire, we fire back. If they stop, we stop. I think that was a very clear message given to the Americans, right? And to everybody else. Nobody else actually even tried to intervene. So the point is that this speech has been quite path-breaking, but I would have, and maybe that's just me,
okay,
I would have preferred if the Prime Minister had in very clear terms disabused everybody around the world, although he did mention, I'm telling the world this, but I would have imagined that it would be, if he had probably made a somewhat more
pointed. I understand. A pointed reference to this character. I understand what you're saying. Okay, let's move this conversation forward. It's a good point. Let's move the conversation forward. I just want to quickly bring in Brahmachaleni as well as Nalin Mehta. Nalin Mehta, very quickly, what do you make? Look, at the end of the day, I think the Prime Minister has taken political ownership of Operation Sindoor, and he has decided that he has sent out a message to the world that, look, India stands for a certain set of values. You mess with us, you're going to pay the price. Whether you're a nuclear weapons power or not, which was not the case. You heard General V.P. Malik. He said this new way of thinking, this political resolve, didn't exist before 2016.
Rahul, this was a speech of unambiguous strength, of strategic clarity, and a very no-nonsense tone. And I think that tone really stood out for me. This speech happens in a context where for the last 2 days there's been a lot of consternation in this country about Trump's statements, about the narrative that has happened. Unlike Balakot or unlike Kargil, where at the end of the conflict, where there was great euphoria, the euphoria here, when you had your feet on Pakistan's throat, as it were, complete air dominance and the decision to stop and Trump's intervention, that created a lot of confusion. So if you see what's happened in the last 2 days, India has kind of completely grasped the narrative back. There was a very clear briefings by the MEA on what specifically happened behind the scenes as opposed to what the Americans were saying. There was been very pinpointed, strong briefings by the military, by all three services yesterday and today, and then the Prime Minister coming in and kind of sealing the point on that narrative. So to my mind, what the Prime Minister has said today, actually, if you there are 3 parts of it. Leave aside the past, look at the forward-looking things he said. He has absolutely laid out a new doctrine. He has said there will be no nuclear blackmail. He's laid out a new policy on terror. He's saying that every time there will be an attack like this, India will respond. He specifically said on the question of talks that there will be no talks with Pakistan. If ever there are talks, they'll only be on terror. They'll only be on taking POK back. He's repeated the point on water and blood do not mix, terror and water do not mix. And I think he's making a very specific point to the global community too, when he's saying that Bhavalpur and Muridke were global universities of terror. They were linked to major global attacks around, in the last few decades, including 9/11 and the attacks on the London Tube. So this is a speech not just aimed at a domestic constituency, laying out a very clear doctrine, but also to a global community where India is specifically responding to the debate that is unfolded around this conflict in the last 2 days.
I think that's an important point, and I have to say this is not just about retaliation, it's about resurgence, because India did not have to push the envelope, viewers. The Prime Minister could easily have said, look, Operation Sindoor is now over, which means that even the non-kinetic options we are going to sort of relook. We'll come back to the talks table, we'll have a nice dialogue, we'll sit across each other. But no, viewers, he hasn't said that. He said if there is ever a conversation, it's going to be on our terms, because we decide, because of our dominance, we decide the terms of reference, and there are only 2, which is POK, hand it back to us, or very simply, terror. That's it. There are only 2. So Brahmachaleni, let me bring you in. We have paused our strike to observe what Pakistan will do. The Prime Minister made it very clear, this is not a ceasefire. So Trump might be talking about, I have done this and that. By the way, Trump has actually resiled on his position. A few days back, he talked about mediation. Now he says we helped the process. We helped get a conversation started. We didn't help. We didn't forge a deal, we helped. These are his latest words. You can play out the soundbite. I'll pull out in just a few moments. So, Professor, I have to ask you this. How does this translate into a surrender to Trump or an enforced peace? It's far from that.
First, let's be clear on what has happened. There is a clear shift in India's strategic posture toward Pakistan, a paradigm shift from Modi landing in Lahore unannounced as a peacemaker to Operation Sindoor, there has been a mind-boggling shift in Modi's own thinking and policy toward Pakistan. This is similar to Vajpayee's record. Vajpayee took India on a roller coaster ride on Pakistan, starting with him going to Lahore in a bus, and then subsequently prevailing publicly that his bus to Lahore got hijacked to Kargil. So we have had this dramatic shifts in India's Pakistan policy under successive prime ministers. We saw that also with Manmohan Singh. His peace overtures to Pakistan invited the horrific massacre in Mumbai, and then things changed. Now with Operation Sindoor, the most important thing for me about Operation Sindoor is that India has once again demonstrated that meaningful military retaliation is possible below the nuclear threshold. Like the surgical strikes after Uri and the Balakot airstrikes, this latest campaign has punctured the myth of Pakistan's nuclear shield, which Pakistan has long used to shelter its strategy of exporting terrorism. So by crossing yet another psychological and tactical threshold, India has redrawn the boundaries of escalation, reinforcing that proxy warfare will no longer go unanswered. But I don't want to put a damper on the celebrations we are having here over Modi's stirring speech. But we shouldn't lock ourselves in echo chambers where we hear what we would like to hear. There are some questions that he didn't answer, the Prime Minister, in his speech.
Network 18 decimates Times Internet with over 6 times more unique users on social media. Network 18, the undisputed leader of news networks, way ahead of the times.